Anyway, great to be here with you again here in the land of Cleves. I appreciate any opportunity I have here. So when I was growing up, because we're talking about monsters, you've been talking about monsters, as one should at the end of October. But the monsters that I remember growing up with, and they were old in my day too, so no old guy jokes, okay? But the Universal Studio monsters, they were called. As an adult, I look back at them and realize, man, they were so obvious. They're really obvious monsters, like Frankenstein. Oh, here's a lineup here for me. Okay, Frankenstein was, if you recall, was a dead carcass that had been dead for a while, and then electricity got him going. So he wasn't what you'd call fast-moving. If you watch him, he was like, he was always wearing that jacket that wasn't quite his size. Don't you think if you're going to go to all the trouble of regenerating dead flesh, you get the guy tailored for a jacket that fits him? But I appreciate the fact he always had the blazer on. So, you know, you're trying. You're putting it out there. I appreciate that. But he was like very slow moving, not what you'd call agile. And he wore these gigantic boots that were like 300 pounds each, like cinder blocks. So basically, this guy wasn't really a threat unless you're over 80, okay? Just a brisk walk will get you out of his damaged space, you know? But somehow it never worked that way in the movies. Moving this slow, like old school zombie speed. And inevitably, though, somebody would fall. Maybe if he had a superpower, it was he could make everyone he was chasing clumsy, because they would fall and then just lie there. Lie there on the ground and wait for him to come and step on their head or whatever it was he did. I don't really know. But not a big challenge. It was like, why was this man terrorizing the countryside? Now, Count Dracula, on the other hand, I agree. There's a little more of it, even though he was like 500 years old. But he was spooky. Now, let me also, on a side note, say, the man dressed for success, you know? He put, not like these new school, like millennial vampires. You're like cool T-shirts and stubble and, you know, brooding. These guys were like, you look at that, a vest and some nice bling hanging there and a cape. A cape? What happened to the old age of capes? If you're going to steal my blood supply, dress for it, okay? Put some effort into it. That's all I'm saying. But the thing with him is, despite how he did his creepy way with his hands, there was only two danger points on him. Tooth 1, Fang 1, and Fang 2. That's it. If you can just immobilize those, you're in business. So if you feel like there's a vampire in your area, you just carry a ball-peen hammer around, you know. Put it in your belt. When he gets close, oh, you're gonna go for the neck. Watch this. Tink, tink. Bye. Done. You got nothing. You know? So outrun Frankenstein, which is about this speed, about running, and a ball-peen hammer for Dracula. Now, the Mummy presents a whole different thing here because, you know, the backstory. He was 3,000 years old, wrapped in gauze for 3,000 years in hot, dry desert air. So ball-peen hammer's not going to help you here, but a $1 Bic lighter from the Quickie Mart. Oh, Mommy, you got, yeah, I see you've been wrapped up for like 3,000 years. Watch this. I'm like, no more Mummy. He's ashes now. It's like, dude, what were you thinking? You're so flammable. So, and the werewolf guy becomes a wolf, okay? So that does sound pretty scary. But what's a wolf but a glorified dog, right? They're still, at the end of the day, they're dogs. So when he comes near you, you find that spot on his back that everyone knows about if you have a dog. And like, and they get that look on their face. And then you pull out the ball-peen hammer. Clink, clink. Fangs are gone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You can picture Count Dracula and werewolf in the dentist's office lobby Monday morning, reading Highlights magazine, comparing notes. Yeah, me too. Fat guy with ball-peen hammer? Rude. That's all that is rude. I like to imagine these little conversations. But what we're looking at this morning, in contrast to these very obvious guys who are screaming monster all the way down the street, those aren't the ones you have to look out for. It's the Norman Bates types. Now, I'm assuming we didn't show the famous shower scene from 1960s Psycho, okay? But I'm assuming most of you know that quiet, unsupposing guy who was just so gentle, and a mother is a man's best friend. Those kind of namby-pamby things like that. All of a sudden is like, waving a meat cleaver into the, and deaths, and people were getting murdered and killed from such a quiet, unsupposing guy. And I put to you this morning, that's a really good picture, a really accurate picture of the sin that will get you. Oh, yeah. Let's look to some scripture here. By now you're beginning to panic. He's never going to get to the Bible, is he? Yes. Oh, ye of little faith. Let's go there. Genesis. Now, backstory. So, Adam and Eve, they have two kids. They have more than two, but their two oldest, Cain and Abel. And God had, we infer from the story, God had told everyone, I need a sacrifice from you, a little bit from you. Sacrifice your best. And Abel did it spot on. He was right on the money. He was like, here, God, I raise sheep, so here's my very best sheep. Here you go, God. And he was like, well, whatever. Here's some moldy cabbages. Plunk that down. And he continually did this, and Abel continually did it right, and Cain continually did it wrong. And there's resentment building with Cain. This stupid brother, goody two-shoes over here, keeps doing it. And God recognizes this. So God appears to Cain. The Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? Easy solution. Do what's right. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. There, in a nutshell, a microcosm of all sins. We have something brewing inside of us, some nasty emotion, something that's going to result. And first of all, is that creepy or what? Sin is crouching outside your door. There's a picture. If you picture like some warty green, like snot coming out of him and pus just gurgling and bubbling outside your door. It's like, ooh, if that doesn't keep you awake at night. Sin, I see him crouching outside your door, and he desires to have you. I'll throw a Hebrew word out for you. Because I love it. Teshucha. It craves you. It wants to rule over. It wants you to be its servant or something to that effect. That's what it wants from you. And you must rule over it. You've got to do this. You got to recognize this and rule over it. And what happens? Yeah. Cain says, hey, Abel, let's go out in the field together. Oh, good. A little trip with Big Brother. Okay, Big Bro, let's go. Now we all want to kill him, right? He's Abel. And so and kills his brother, and then it's, oh, man, everything hits the fan, and suddenly, oh, man, and you've murdered. Way to go. And now Cain says, now I roam the earth, and everyone I meet will want to kill me. And God puts a mark on his head to protect him somehow. So if you ever had the question, where did Cain get his wife? You can enlarge that by saying, where did all these other people come from? I actually have a theory on that if you want to talk to me afterwards. Let's not worry about it right now. Anyway, so that's what happened. So his life is essentially ruined. His life is made bad. And I gave you fair warning, Cain, didn't I? Sin was crouching outside your door. I told you it was. And it had its way, and it did it. Now, give him a few points, the fact that humans haven't been around very long, kind of a rookie mistake. But the point being, we can look at this and see a tale, a cautionary tale for Christians of 2020. There will be a sin that's crouching outside your door waiting. It hasn't happened yet, but it's waiting, and you got to recognize, you best recognize that sin waiting outside your door and go from there. But they're hard to spot, and that's kind of the big message of today is recognize that God knows where the monsters are hiding. God knows monsters. Ooh, that's pretty creepy looking. Yeah. The reason why we don't understand God, and that's going to happen a lot, expect that. There's going to be lots of times like, I don't get God here. I don't understand God. Yeah, that's going to happen a lot. It's because we don't see what he sees. There is a broad, across-the-board, universal truth. I don't see everything God sees. He sees 60 years in the future. He sees all of humanity all at once. He sees every intricate, interweaving event that's going to take place that's going to lead to another event that's going to lead to another event. And so many times, if you're a follower of God, you go, why? Why is God doing this? And he's like, if you saw what I saw, it would make total sense. But God sees what we don't see, and God sees where the monsters are hiding. So he gives us these guidelines. Here's how you can tell where the monsters are. And we don't listen. We don't listen. Alexander Pope from 1600s had this little poem that I think you can replace sin with vice. That's what he meant. Sin is a monster of so frightful mien, visage, face, as to be hated needs but to be seen. Yet seen too oft, familiar with face, we first endure, then pity, then embrace. Sin is a monster. It will always be a monster, but you see it often enough that it's like, well, okay, it's not that big of a deal. And you first endure it, then you start to feel sorry for it, and then suddenly you're hugging it. You're somewhere hugging that sin. Oh, there, bring it in. Give Daddy a hug, and that's what you do with the sin. And how did it get there? Because it started out repulsive, but then it got considerably more charming and considerably more clever. And that's the Norman Bates element of sin. You could say it this way, too. Here's another way of saying it. There are two kinds of sins. One kind probably won't get you. Those are the rat sins. Those are immediately repulsive to you. You're reading I can't. You're reading the paper. Remember when people used to read the paper? Anyway, so you're looking online and you see some story about, oh man, why would anyone do that? That sickens me. That's disgusting. Those are the rat sins. They automatically repulse you. I remember Dan being in my house around 2001, and I said, I think we might have rats or something. We're standing on the hall. I don't know if you remember this. And a rat comes rolling out. And Dan was wearing these big, clumpy Doc Marten boots. It goes, poof. Whoa. I didn't have the reflex to do it. But we're like, that just happened. Whoa, that was creepy. That's rat sins. They automatically, and you're proud of those. See, I would never be tempted by that. Oh, that's disgusting. Those are rat sins. What are the other kinds? The other kind are squirrel sins. Now, I put it to you. Here's a picture. If you look closely, next time you see squirrels frolicking and scampering as they are wont to do, you notice there's really no difference between a rat and a squirrel, except for a bushy tail. This is how stupid we are. Like, one's, ooh, disgusting, get that out. And the other one is, oh, look at those. Look at the squirrels playing. They've got acorns. They're chasing each other up a tree. They're so cute. Why are they cute? Because they have a bushy tail. That's all it takes, really? So a guy knocks on your door. Hi, I'd like to kill everyone in your family and steal everything you have. Oh, I see you got a cute bushy tail. Come on in. Yeah, that's all it takes. I remember living in the suburb of D.C. that we lived in. Squirrels were often scampering and often frolicking. I would say more frolicking than scampering, wouldn't you say? To break that down. Anyway, we'd all cuter than the Dickens. We actually had a picture of Charles Dickens with us, and we looked. It's cuter than the Dickens. But then one morning, I remember Saturday morning, we're trying to sleep in, and I hear up in my attic the distinctive sound of squirrel scampering. And I'm like, what? And I bumped my wife, hey, listen. And we were amused. We're like, there's squirrels up there, up in the attic. Squirrels in the attic. And that was our face. Oh, that's so cute. Cute. And then a few weeks later, I wake up and it's like now a disturbing volume of squirrel activity up there. It's like this is like a county track invitational for squirrels. They just did the high hurdles, I think. Going on, I'm like, and now I'm starting to get a little, okay, they're cute, but that's a lot of squirrel activity. A few days later, I go to the linen closet, get a towel out, and I see sawdust on the floor. I'm like, what's this little pile of sawdust? Why do we have sawdust on our floor? Oh, man, those squirrels had chewed a hole in my ceiling. Okay, this isn't funny anymore. You're chewing holes in my ceiling? Oh, it's on now, friend. You just messed with the wrong townhouse owner here, buddy. I've never been good at trash talk. I try my best. But this is it. And I realized then, squirrels do exactly what rats do, except with the bushy tail. That's it. They will chew. They will take your stuff. They will eat your food. They'll do everything that you are sickened by that rats do, except they do it with a bushy tail. And what morons we are. So I was at war with the squirrels. Operation 1, I thought we have this useless cat that never pulls her share of the load, so I picked her up, and she's immediately, like, in the corner, as cats do. I tried calling her, and she was, like, expending every ounce of energy to ignore me. I'm like, seriously? So I pick her up, and she, what do you want, man? You think because you feed me and take care of me, I owe you something? Oh, no. She was also a chain-smoking cat, so I picked her up, and I'm like, she's giving me all these irritated cat sounds, and I get the ladder, and we go up the attic, and I plop her down. At this point, she's like staring at me. Cat profanity coming out of her little whiskered mouth. And like, come on, dude, get the scent. I know there's squirrels up here. I know that. You catch the scent. This is what you do. It's your thing in the nature wheel or whatever that's called. Circle of life. Nature wheel? Wow. Anyway. So do the nature wheel thing, go. And she's like, just nothing. Come on. I'm like trying to shove her. And then all of a sudden she catches something. I'm like, whoa, this is good. She picks up on something. And she walks over to the edge of the attic that overlooked the street. And she's looking down. And then she plops and gets all comfy in that loaf of bread position that cats get in, And I'm like, so she's just enjoying the view. That's it. Like, this is not it. So I have to straddle across these 2x4s, the rafters, and pick her up. And she... just cat cussing going on all the time. Lower back to, okay, Operation Cat, failure. All right, let's try something different. So I think we need to terrorize these squirrels, make this an unpleasant space. So I had some leftover smoke bombs and firecrackers. Yeah. And I'm like, that's what I'll do. I'll go up and just make that horrible up there. So I had, at that time, my son was 15. I think his cousin was visiting us at the time, also around the same age. I said, hey, guys, you're going to like this. Where are you going with the smoke bombs and firecrackers? To the attic. We are going to chase those squirrels out of there. And they're both, okay. We were playing a video game. Come on, it's firecrackers. So we go up to the top of the ladder, and I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to light some smoke bombs, and then we're going to light these firecrackers. And I think the sound and the smell is just going to get these squirrels out of here. And they're giving me this look. Are you sure this is a good idea? Now, here's a little life lesson for you. If the teenagers in the room are questioning the wisdom of your decision, might be time to rethink. Like, isn't that flammable and stuff? I'm like, flammable. I have a jar of water here. I've thought ahead on this, so don't question me. So we do the smoke, and they're like, okay. Because you guys, come on, you're 15. You love this stuff. So smoke bombs are, I've seen it. Well, of course, I wouldn't see anything. They're not going to come out of hiding at that point. So let's see how they react to the firecrackers. Ha, ha, ha. And sort of, pop, 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 pop. And I expend all my firecrackers. I don't see anything happening. And the 15-year-olds are, can we get back to Zelda now? This was kind of an interruption from important business we were doing. So I'm like, fine. So I waited, and sure enough, at this point, the squirrels were scampering mockingly. I can distinguish my scampers, and that was a mocking scamper. They're like, ha ha, is that the best you got? Ooh, firecrackers, smoke bombs. Yeah, well, that really made a difference, didn't it, boys? Little squirrel giggles going on in the attic. I'm like, oh, this is... So then I ended up going to where I should have started, the internet. How are you having trouble with squirrels in your attic? Yes, I am. Well, they're only natural, instinctually, a little bit of nature knowledge for you in the wheel of nature. Okay. So the only natural, by instinct, squirrels know foxes are our enemy. So you give the presence of a fox, or they think the presence of a fox. So pay $19.95 and get this canister of powdered fox urine, extracted from dehydrated foxes, apparently. I don't know how they got that exactly. And I'm like, is this serious? So I put little dishes around the attic of dehydrated fox powder, which works. Squirrels gone bye-bye. I did then have to explain to my wife on the credit card statement, fox urine? You sent away for fox urine. It's powdered fox urine. It was for the squirrels. Anyway, squirrels will mess you up just as bad as rats, but they look cute. In all of your lives, and it's going to differ from person to person, there are the rat sins. Ooh, that's disgusting. I would never do that. I would never be interested in that. It wouldn't even appeal to me in any way. But then there's the squirrel sins that, come on. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? What's your only protection? Your only protection is to Proverbs 2 tells us best. Or is it 3? I don't know. There's a verse from Proverbs 3:5. It's very simple. You can memorize this. And it's a good thing to memorize for when you hit the squirrel. But it looks so cute. I know the Bible says this, but there should be red lights flashing and sirens blaring when you have the phrase in your mind, I know the Bible says blank, but warning, warning. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. But I don't understand what exactly. Because God's the supreme being. And I want to ask people, because this comes up every single generation, like, well, I know the Bible says this, but me and my friends were the new variation. I was on this discussion thread, and we all think that blah, blah, blah. Even though God said this, we all think blah, blah, blah. I'm like, newsflash. He's the creator of the universe. He's got an edge on you. IQ-wise, do you not expect that he'd be a few notches above you? Actually, several billion notches from. So trust in him with all your heart. But this seems, exactly, it's a squirrel sin. Lean not on your own understanding. The 3 sounds of human wisdom, I call it the sound effects of human wisdom, are these. First of all, you find out God doesn't want you to do that. Ew. Channel your best 13-year-old girl. Ew, I don't want that. And then Paul said, that's perfectly natural. Everyone does that, all ages. You find out God doesn't want you to, like, ew, but I want to, though. Ew. And then the second one is, ow! You try it anyway, like a doofus, and it comes back to bite you in the booty. And then suddenly, ouch. And it's usually way more damaging than just a bite on the booty. And then comes, there it is. Ew. Ow! Why? Because God knows monsters. God knows where the monsters are hiding. That's the sound effect of human wisdom. Some people I have known who did not, everyone at one time or another, and that's why we celebrate the wonderful grace of Jesus. But my first youth ministry in Pennsylvania, the girl Denise, she would call me up, and everyone knows someone like this, and as soon as you hear the voice, you know, whatever plans I had for the next half hour, I can kiss them goodbye. And I wouldn't have minded if she ever listened to anything I said. But she goes, I have a question. And I would say, no, the Bible's very clear on that, blah, blah, blah. And she would go on for an hour, and I realized she wasn't looking for advice. She was giving me an hour to come over to her side. She was giving me an opportunity to agree with her, is what she was doing. Like, you're not even listening. So she goes up. This was a true story. She calls him up. She would never say hello. She would just cut in with it. Hey, shouldn't Christians follow the golden rule? I'm like, I'm starting to smell a trap here. You mean do unto others you would have them do unto you? Yeah, isn't that the Christian thing to do? I'm reviewing. How could she possibly twist this? I'm like, yeah, Jesus absolutely did say that Sermon on the Mount. He said, do unto others. Okay, great. I'm like, what? Well, I'm out with my boyfriend. I'll let the implications wash over you for just a moment there. I'm out with my boyfriend. I realize, it's the loving thing to do. I'll do unto him as I want him to do. I'm like, okay, hold up. There's an amendment. There's an asterisk on the golden rule. It does not apply sexually. What a different world we would live in if that was the case. No. But you said it doesn't matter. Here's some other scriptures. Let me give you some other scriptures that balance that one out. That is not the case. She was still trying to make the argument she was being a loving Christian by doing God knows what. Well, I think God does know what. I think we all know what, with her boyfriend. And then she calls me a couple weeks later, and she goes, well, Gary, and I knew Gary. Gary came to church, and that was her. See, he comes to church with me. Gary was a nice guy. He was a sweet guy. He was, if you will, a Norman Bates kind of guy, just very soft-spoken and very cheery, good musician. And he picks me up. I go to his trailer, and then it's a 20-minute drive to my house, and it's late, and he has to get up in the morning. Gary does not have to get up in the morning. Don't give me that crap. But so wouldn't it be better if I just spent the night? No, it would not be better. But wouldn't it be? But it'd be loving toward him. This is how she reasoned. And I'm like, no. And I tried to read, no, you are, but we're not going to do anything. You will do something. I promise you. No, we're not going to. And it didn't matter. An hour went by, an hour carved out of my life with a big ice cream scoop that I can never get back. And she had determined she was going to. Like, oh, my gosh. Squirrel. Gary the squirrel had come into her life. Guess what? A month later, she calls me up. I think I might be pregnant. Wow. Shocked face out of me. Let me guess. Gary's trailer, you spent the night when you weren't doing anything? Is that how this happened? Oh, my gosh. But that's a classic example. But it seems, but it's nice. And there is no more effective weapon that Satan can wield than romance. I'm saying in my life, as I have observed people get steered away from the faith, somehow his greatest tool is romance. Is he saying something negative about romance? Yes, because it will blind you. The squirrels will often have a romantic air about them. They'll be loving, they'll be kind, they'll be sweet, they'll send you cards, they'll dedicate songs on the radio to you, they'll give you Mylar balloons. This is what squirrels do, okay? They will charm the pants off you sometimes, literally, because that's how squirrels work. So many more stories from my own life, but this is another guy I was working with, same youth group, Kofi. He was born in Africa. He had a cool African name, but Kofi, as a teenager, discovered cannabis, and he's like, dude, listen up, though, that this is a plant that God made. Like, dude, I used to be a stoner. Don't use the stoner arguments on me, okay? Because it's nature. Yeah, staring at the sun is also nature. It will also dry your eyeballs up like raisins. Okay, that doesn't make it good just because it's from nature, but it's the standard stoner argument, blah, 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 since time immemorial. And then he got into Rastafarianism, which is an official religion dedicated to smoking weed, and worshiping Haile Selassie, an obscure Ethiopian dictator who lost to the Italians in World War II. That's an ugly mark on your resume. I stray a bit here. Okay, and sure enough, and now I can go to Western Pennsylvania and find Kofi walking to work somewhere. He's in his 40s now, walking to work. He can't drive. He can't possess a vehicle anymore. He's had so many DUIs from ushering that beautiful little squirrel, that smiling little cannabis squirrel into his life, and couldn't handle it, and has trashed his own vehicles that were loaned to him. And it's just sad. My friend Brent, who went to same Bible college as me, we did ministry together, but I could never convince him. He's like, porn? Porn? What? Porn? It's what guys do. It's like, well, that doesn't mean they should do it. Well, it's not. And so he ends up meeting the woman of his dreams. They get married. But he could not convince himself that this was a destructive force in his life. He's at a strip club one night. One of the strippers comes on to him, spends the night with the stripper within his first year of marriage, and I get a call from his wife, which was pleasant, I can assure you. And I'm like, Brent, you waste of space. I want to kick you in the pants. We went over this. The innocent little squirrel became something that has wrecked your life. That's how it works. When will we ever learn? Ew. I know God said this, but I just think that, you just think that what? He's got you beat in the IQ department. What do you think that can possibly stand up against the creator of the universe? Well, I just think, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your understanding. It's going to be squirrels that get you. Now, here's another principle in case you're thinking, yeah, teenagers, those kids and their wacky decisions. Be warned. Here's a warning for you. And that's this. The bigger, and this is my terminology. I don't even think this is biblical terminology, but you get the point. The bigger the Christian you become, yeah, see, bigger, that's not good terminology, but you get the idea. The bigger the Christian you become, the littler the monster to bring you down. Here's a little math equation. Add how many years you've been a Christian plus you ought to know better equals it's not going to take much because you ought to know better is the equation there. So many stories of that. Moses was heroic. So many times he was the only one holding out the platform of God to these stubborn, rebellious people. And for 40 years they battled out in the wilderness, and they're about to go over to the promised land. And Moses makes one little mistake. He's like 120 years old. And God says, strike the water, or strike the rock, and water will come out, because these people are crying about they need water. So Moses, like, loses his temper, whacks the water, and whacks the rock. You piece those words together into a coherent sentence. I apparently can't. Okay, there we go. God bless you. So water comes out, and it's like, oh, Moses did what? Okay, I lost my I didn't give God the credit. Whoa, big deal. God's a big deal? You're not going to the promised land. You can't be serious. That would be impressive for a 120-year-old man to do that gesture, don't you think? You can't be serious. I'm dead serious, because you ought to know better by now. We've been through some stuff. The little King David, man, the stuff King David did at times. I mean, he was killed, slew thousands of people, had an affair with a lady that was not his wife, called her into the palace, had her husband killed. Think like that would be career ruining. No. God had grace. God forgave. God forgives. But in his older years, in his declining years, he does something that seems like, what? If you read that in 1 Kings, God said, if you're a king, I don't want you to, don't count the population. Don't have a census. Seemed like a weird, random thing from God. What do you care about censuses? Why is God against censuses? Because it will stroke your ego, and if you aren't already a swollen ego monster by now, being king, this is going to make it way worse when you find out how many eligible men you have, military. There's always some genius, whether you realize at the time, there's always some genius behind God's words. And David's like, come on. So he calls his right-hand man, hey, go count how many men in Israel are actually eligible. And his right-hand man, Joab, if memory serves, I don't know. Joab even gave him the look like, should we really be doing this? Because God's made it clear. He gave David the same look that the two 15-year-olds gave me when I was holding firecrackers and smoke bombs. Is this what we should be doing? Yeah, come on, it's fine, no big deal. And so they do, and God says, wow. Yeah. Guess what? Now people are going to die because you don't seem to get it through your thick skull that people get hurt when you sin. You don't seem to, and so David had to watch while thousands of his countrymen died. Sucked for them, didn't it? But God was making a very powerful message that would resonate throughout history. Don't mess around with little things. We know of a guy who, modern day, who started a church in Seattle where they said, no, this is the most pagan city in the country. A church will never prosper there. And he made it happen. It turned into a mega church. He had branch campuses all the time. And it was not any big thing that brought him down. It was really what appeared to him, certainly little thing. He regularly churned out books, and he said to his leadership team, who apparently had been eliminated of all naysayers, who were nothing but yes men at this point, he goes, what if the church bought like 100,000 of these books? We'll resell them, so it won't take a loss. That way that'll tip me into the New York Times bestseller list. What do you think, guys? Someone in the room should have had something enough to say, this is not a good idea. This is dishonest. But nobody did, and they did. It was just a little thing. Lost his ministry. Even non-Christians around the country were like, what kind of integrity is this? You trying to manipulate things? I just thought it was, you just thought. It was a squirrel is what it was. You were a big shot in the faith. And a little squirrel, a little cute smiling squirrel, just a minor dishonesty in your mind, at least, a minor dishonesty. You lost all the had to step down. They shut down the branch campuses. I don't know if the church still doesn't exist at all. Okay, there you go. And how'd that happen? It wasn't some blazing tabloid heading sexual scandal. It was a squirrel that crept in there. Norman Bates spoke softly. Beware, the longer you've been a Christian, it won't take much for God's words, God's warning to come to play. Beware when it speaks. When you start to say, well, I know that's what the Bible says, but Let me tell you what happened in 1959. First of all, back up a little bit. I'm a dude, and I have never had a baby. Just full disclosure, just so you know. I know it looks like I'm about to, but I have never had a baby. But the ladies who have had the babies tell me it can be uncomfortable at times. Is those reports correct? Is that true? Some discomfort. Okay. I mean, even without the labor pain, there's the, morning sickness. And most women experience some of that, and you're throwing up, and it's bad. So, 1959, there was a pharmaceutical company in Germany that came up with this new drug. Women who were regularly beset with morning sickness, who were just throwing their guts up every day for 9 months, suddenly, whoa! And it was selling off the markets, selling off the shelves in the markets. And so ladies in America get wind of this. Like, I have this cousin in Germany. She tells me there's this new drug. Where's this drug? Why can't we have this? The Merrill pharmaceutical company's like perks up. Ooh, hey, daddy likey. So they want to get a hold. They want the patent on that. They want to make the big bucks by selling this. And pregnant ladies in America are begging, come on! And so they take it to the FDA, as one must in the United States. There was a lady, Dr. Frances Kelsey, had just been assigned the job of Chief Science Officer for the Food and Drug Administration. She'd only been there a month, and she was well aware of the fact that she was a woman in a predominantly male-dominated position, so she already felt a little bit iffy about that. And they dropped this in her desk, say, here, we need your approval so we can run ahead. Said the Merrill Pharmaceutical Company. We want to run this amazing drug. She's like, I need to look a little further at this. Come on, just give it. You're new around here. Just sign the thing. She wouldn't just sign the thing. No, I need to check this out further. And so they're like, okay, a day has gone by. You're ready to sign? No, I still need to. And weeks go by. So now it's on. So now the Merrill Pharmaceutical Company, with all their big pharma, big bucks, starts plastering it in the newspaper. This word about, we have a drug. There's a drug available in Europe to European ladies that eliminates morning sickness. But unfortunately, it's being held up by Dr. Frances Kelsey of the Food and Drug Administration. Put her picture in the paper. So now she's major pressure. Every politician's like, come on, our constituents are getting. She was getting angry letters from pregnant ladies. Pregnant ladies, I think, can sometimes be very hostile. She was getting death threats, seriously death threats, and the Merrill company was like putting the pressure on. We would love to help you out, ladies, but this bonehead over here, no, she won't have it. And she's like, I need more testing. And what her concern was, placental absorption. Will this drug absorb into the placenta and affect the baby? And like, come on! And all kinds of pressure in the world, and it was just getting unbearable, but she would not budge. I'm not budging on this. And then, around 1960, these babies started getting born. And the world began to see what thalidomide babies looked like. Thalidomide was the drug. And a whole generation of thousands of kids around Europe, little flippers for hands and legs, sometimes facial parts missing. They're now about my age, because that was right around when I was born. And all of a sudden, we're like, come on, ooh. Remember those sound effects? Oh, and then, ow, ooh, and then, oh. And there were some pregnant ladies writing sorry for the death threat, okay? But that whole cut out your brake lines in your car, I wasn't really going to ever do that. And all of a sudden, it was like, ooh, thank you. And people of my age who were being born, if they'd been aware at the time, would be very thankful. John Kennedy calls Dr. Frances Kelsey. The White House gives her some hero award because you held strong. While everyone around you said, come on, give in. Frances Kelsey said, I don't think so. And that should be the heroic picture of you. When everything looks like, but everyone else, but they all think, but we, to use millennial language, me and my friends were all talking, and we all decided that despite the fact that there's a Bible verse about this, we have overruled it. We have vetoed it. And so blah, blah, blah. No matter what is happening to you, you hold strong, because trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean on your understanding. It will be the squirrels that will be your undoing, if anything has to be your undoing. But it doesn't have to be. You can trust in the Lord with all your heart, and don't lean on your understanding. And then it doesn't matter what pressure has come to play. You will be the hero that Dr. Frances Kelsey was. You will be the hero who doesn't get your life chewed apart by those smiling, sweet-smelling, oh, so beautiful squirrels. Their cute little bushy tails. Let's pray.